Hey y'all, I'm Niccara, and welcome to another episode of But Make It Books, a podcast where we are bookishly healing through life. Come on y'all, let's go healing. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of But Make It Books, a bookish podcast where we are healing through life. And I am so blessed and fortunate to be in the presence of one of the spiciest romance novelists. This side in left, east, west, and south of Mississippi. Tanvier Peart, how are you, my dear?
I'm good. I also don't know, thank you, but I definitely know some super, super, super spicy people. But happy to be a shadow in the wall. Not in the wall, I guess against the wall, and to have my forehead
Or the
back to the
window.
brick wall. Yeah, from the
Or
window to the wall. Happy to be here.
listen, we are happy to have you. So
Thank you.
on But Make It Books, we always do a check-in. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to remember what day it is. But I'm I'm good. I got joy in my system, resistance in
Yes.
my body, my kids, my husband, we're good, fully stocked fridge, like basics that I don't take for granted without being too happy, but very, very happy and good. Are you good?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could go on a whole thing about what
Yeah.
you just said.
I'm sorry.
No, we both work in similar spaces, and I'm just every day I'm blessed that I can wake up every day, that God wakes me up every day,
Okay.
and that I have so much love and friendship in my life,
Mhm.
and I don't have to worry about ever worrying about my next meal. And
Mhm.
I've realized that a lot of people don't have that blessing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, a word to preach.
Yes.
So, because I'm from Baltimore, we have to do our little snowball.
Okay.
So, someone who is also a snacker and a snack that
Okay.
smiles back, what is your go-to snack?
Uh, it depends on the type of It really depends on the time of day and what I feel like. You also know I'm from Baltimore too.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to Emerson Village and all around 695 when my mama got evicted. We lived everywhere and anywhere. I would say my go-to snack is kind of like a breakfast food. I eat a parfait every day, so give me a vanilla yogurt with like the raspberries, the blackberries, a little bit of mango, the
Oh,
strawberries, and like some granola,
okay.
um, or just like a pretzel. I like sweet, I like salty.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I've been getting into more yogurt parfaits and like putting like a good like jam on the bottom.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, like that sets it all. So I started off with a jam on the bottom, put granola on top of that. Then I put the yogurt. And then I put the fruit. And then I drizzle some honey, orange blossom, orange blossom honey on top.
Okay.
Meghan
All right.
Markle, Meghan Markle taught me a little
Okay,
bit.
I was
So I
about to
just
say that sounds like the princess. So I need to get on board.
yes,
Okay.
yes. But I will say what will make my 13th reason why is nerd gummy clusters.
Ooh. Now, do you like the long ropes
Nope, they have to be
or
the little
just
clusters. And it
okay?
has to be rainbow, not the one in the
Okay.
blue, the one in the pink bag.
Okay, because that matters.
It
Yes.
does. The flavor don't
Yes.
hit the same.
Yes. I feel the same about M&Ms, even though it's just food coloring.
Regular M&Ms or peanut M&Ms?
Peanut.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes pretzels, but
Oh,
peanuts is the default.
yes, okay. We see each other.
Yes.
So let's get into our discussion, but I want to give the folks a little bit about you. So, as a contemporary romance author, you craft indie romance books for adults full of humor, shenanigans, and them good old tingles. You are a good girl with kinks who spends her days working on public policy and enjoys the wild life of being a wife and a PTA mom. Oh, blessings to the
Yeah.
moms who are listening today. By night, she writes and reads spicy romance books. For 12 years, you dedicated your life to freelance reporting for several outlets, including Essence.com, Madame Noir, She Knows, and other brands before transitioning to a life of advocacy and legislation. In addition, you run a successful home and a living blog before pivoting to join Cafe Mom, a top online destination for mothers. Managing day to day operations as a deputy editor, You have a wealth of experience curating and packaging stories in a way that resonates with your readers. And I'm so blessed to be in this space with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I was like, oh yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you did all of that. Yeah, I think no, that's why I like to give a little bio read before we jump in, just so people know like
Yeah.
what we talk about and also how your experiences shape your life.
Mm.
So, especially being before we jump into your about to be newest release, is I want to talk about spiciness and motherhood.
Okay.
Yes, because I think that a lot of folks don't a lot of women sometimes feel like they either haven't discovered all their spiciness or think that their
Mm.
spiciness has fell off, or sometimes they don't deserve like the spice that comes with love and romance and all the things. And so I want to hear a little bit about how you becoming a mother, a wife, all those things, how that has like changed and transformed you the more and more you become a writer. I know that was
Oh,
loaded.
oh, it is. How do I answer that? Well, uh, I would say being a wife, I don't say that it's, oh, like it's just a title because I love, I'm one of those people who loves being married. I've been with my husband for 18 years together, married for 13 and a half. So Black love in this household is what we celebrate.
Yes.
Across the diaspora because he's Black Panamanian too. Um, I feel like I was still the same Tanvier back then. I'm trying to think. We were like a little bit more concrete in our togetherness. Motherhood was a thing that really changed me, where I've heard stories from friends and from families about how easy it is to get lost in
Mm-hmm.
the title and sort of the dedication of being in service to these beings that you're blessed to have, but also might want to put out the home once they're a certain age, because kids are a handful. Um,
Oof.
and so just making sure that while I'm showing up for everybody, the household overall, that I take time to show up for myself. And because I've been told that I have like high functioning anxiety, I always have to be busy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, not too long after becoming a mom and having my first and second kiddo, they're 16 months apart. So, again, being very busy all the time. I was in graduate school and I was also working full time. And so, like, just constantly in service to somebody, but not really having the self care. And
Mm-hmm.
so, without jumping too much into the questions, like, I came into romance in 2020 through therapy. Like, I never had the intention of being a romance writer. Um, I never had the intention of like being in this space, but I needed a safe place to land in a world of chaos. And you know that from policy, especially with the uprisings. And so that coupled with like a lot of the household demands made it very easy to sort of lose Tanvier. Um, I was still myself, but when I sort of took stock of how I was showing up for myself, I
Mm-hmm.
was at oftentimes at the very, very bottom, and if you don't show up for yourself, then you can't be in service to other people in the way that you need. So it's important to remind yourself to take up space
Mm-hmm.
for yourself and to be a little bit more selfish
Mm-hmm.
with reclaiming some of your time. But yeah, just I guess before the writing and before kids and before being a wife, was constantly in motion, but then sort of put a lot of stuff on the back burner as other sort of priorities and titles came into play.
No, I really, really love that. And I just like asking moms and wives that question because I think sometimes people think romance goes away or that what happens after the happily ever after, quote unquote,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
Especially when we're dealing with romance, which is amazing, but sometimes we get that happily ever after, you know, we get to see behind the happily ever after in romance, and sometimes we don't. And so I like to see like where you get your lens from. So thank you for that.
yeah. I will
So,
say this
oh,
quickly, if possible. Romance has actually it's empowered me to be a little bit more liberated in who I was. Like
Yeah.
People often ask me, like, oh, who's the closest character to you? And I would say my anxious side is Justice from the 7 Month Itch. And like
Hmm.
she color codes her panties. Like that's me without too much TMI. But the more that I felt comfortable writing Spice, the
Hmm.
more it reflected in our relationship with my partner, my husband. Not to say that we weren't getting it in. Like I put our averages up against anybody else's as long as we've been together. But just
Period.
sort of the liberation to explore maybe some different things that I might not have prioritized, or like the freedom to just be more liberated sexually, like
Hmm.
in our relationship, has been very freeing. That came from romance, like it was seeded in me, but romance helped to take the top off and say, let it out.
I love that you said that because I also feel the same.
Yes.
I used to, I am very new in the romance, like reading and like being obsessed. Like I've always loved like, your BBC period pieces, like also like your romantic comedies. Like I
Mhm.
grew up on A Cinderella Story and What a Girl Wants and all those things, Brown Sugar, Two Can Play That
Mhm.
Game. Like I love Two Can Play That Game. It's like one of my favorite 90s, early aughts movies. Like that. Everybody's like, what's your favorite? Two Can Play That Game. Two Can Play That Game. That's my movie. I love it. Um, but I do think that romance allows everyone, men, women, they them, everybody to explore things that you don't feel like alone in or scared
Mhm.
to try.
Mhm.
Um, which leads me to listen, I was up like,
Oh,
oh,
that's why I said
oh,
head on the back of the church wall, because I am a
l-
church girl. But listen,
listen, man, the church people be the freakiest ones. Listen, we
that
do it in
part,
service of the Lord. We do it in service of
yes,
the Lord, okay?
yes.
So I loved this book. I
Thank
finished
you.
it, completed it. It completed me. Um, I was here for. I had to look up what Preston looked like because I had a picture because I was like, I know this actor. And then I saw it, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Add a touch more melanin, but yes, yes.
I was like, ooh, I like this. I
Mhm.
like this. So I love that the title you immediately evoked like a business term, which I also forgot that was a business term because I was like, oh, tender offer, that's really interesting. Then when I get into it, I'm like, oh, so how does that concept like weave through the emotional landscape that you are trying to create right now with this
Very,
ending?
very good question. So with my stories, I don't always have the title when I write. Sometimes I do. As I'm writing or before I write, I know what it's going to be called. With Tinder Offer, I had no idea what the title was going to be. And so I was trying to pay attention instead of forcing something
Mm,
as I was writing. And so with Tender Offer, it's a second chance romance. So Preston and Madison were together in, I would say, his mid to late 20s, her early 20s, because she was still in college, like wrapping it up. And they
broke
had
as
like
hell.
a,
She was so broke. Poor
listen,
baby.
shout out to Wet Seal and Charlotte Roos that put our
Listen,
girl together.
listen.
The prepaid cards, because this was like back in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
and he was a secret billionaire that she didn't know was. So they had a moment where they were together and they were apart. And so fast forward 15 years later, Tender Offer, and I'm going to say this very loosely without looking at anything because I don't want to butcher it, but it's it's a common phrase in the business world where if folks at a company have, it's a public offer for an entity to take over another company. So they're trying to entice you, either paying a premium for your shares in effort to get you to sell,
Mhm.
with the end goal of sort of acquiring what you have. And so there is no selling of people because we don't agree with that. But Madison, the female main character, is a fashion stylist, and Preston, once their paths cross, is like, I said if I ever saw her again, I'm not going to let her go. And
Mhm.
he is the epitome of if he wanted to, he would. So the way to sort of like hook her in is that he basically tries to hire her to be a fashion stylist, and so that's his in. And then he's like, okay, well, I live in London, you live in New York City, so for 3 months I want you here, and I'll put you in a penthouse that happens to be on the same floor as my penthouse. And so the tender offer comes into play for her heart, where he's not trying to buy her, there's nothing tangible, but it's like we lost time back in the day because our love exploded in the negative way. And I want the time that we didn't have now to see if there's a way that I could earn your heart again. And so it's sort of a cheeky play
Mhm.
on a public bid, in his case, a public declaration to do what he has to do to earn her heart. And what's funny is that, if in business, if that goes smoothly, great. But
Mhm.
if not, a tender offer could look like a hostile takeover. And so in
Right.
this case, we're not doing that, where Preston is leading with a gentleness that he knows he needs to like help remove the layers of harm that have sort of built up and fortified her over time.
Mhm.
So that's where the title came from. And I did not know that the book would be called Tender Offer until I wrote that scene. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I could tie that in.
Yes, you
So it
did.
threads.
You
Thank
did.
you.
You did. And especially when you just highlighted hostile takeover, things that could possibly hurt, not hurt. What draws you to this second chance romance, and what makes this so compelling to write? Because Madison showed up before in your earlier series, and we'll get to that.
That,
Oh no, we're going to get to that. Um, because
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
what what drew you to really write this second chance romance?
Well, when I was first writing The 7 Month Itch, which I wrote that way back in 2021, as I was writing Justice and Terrence, I saw Madison and Preston because there's no spoiler there, but you see that Madison is at the same retreat in The 7 Month Itch, which has
Mhm.
very subtle layovers with Tender Offer. That's where we first start, and then we pivot away. And so with with her second chance, or I should say with her and Preston's second chance, I wanted to spin the block on sort of the backstory, because in The 7 Month Itch, and again, that's not really a spoiler, like they kind of circle back to each other.
Mhm.
But I also wanted to look at the concept of a second chance of like loving yourself and letting go of guilt that
Mhm.
you've harbored, and also harm that you caused, and what that looks like to make amends. So this time around, I was really invested in what is the backstory of Madison and Preston, because we know something happened with them
Mhm.
and we saw them together in certain books, but we don't know what the blanks were to fill.
Right.
And so I really appreciated this story. It was the first time I ever done flashbacks, and I felt like that would be in service to the story, so that if we're looking at the line of like where they're starting and she wants nothing to do with them all the way to the happily ever after, as they're talking about their past hurt, like how can we read about it and sort of see visually what led up to where they are today, that also is a foreshadow of, stuff in the future, because there's like a full circle moment with
Mhm.
the beginning of the story and the epilogue that I wanted to sort of close the loop. But i I wrote Madison not to be likable, but
Okay.
I was really
Because
invested. Yeah. But I'm really invested in this concept, and it's probably the policy work about what restoration looks like to a community that you
mm,
harmed, and what restoration looks like when you let go of guilt and try to be a better person. And so I believe that hurt people, not an
yes.
excuse, to like, I was going to say be a dickhead. I don't know if we could like
No, yeah,
have
we can
flavor of
curse.
language.
No,
Okay.
we're explicit
Also try
on
not
all things.
again.
No, we can curse. Uh-huh.
um, but like, what does that look like? And so throughout Tender Offer, there are moments. The love story obviously is central, but Madison she acknowledges the harm that she caused. She doesn't know how to go to, alleviate it or make
Mm-hmm.
amends. But also, what does accountability look like? And what does it look like for us to show ourselves grace when we don't
Yeah.
feel that we deserve it? And so I think that's when her friends, Tammy and Kojo, who are on different sides of the spectrum with how they show up, are just a good reminder that
Mm-hmm.
we've all been a villain in some sense in somebody else's story, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to carry that in order to be deserving of love from somebody else or also to love ourselves. And so those elements kind of like wrap up what I thought about with the second chance romance and what I wanted to portray with this story, with the
Mm-hmm.
spice and the shenanigans and all of
Yeah,
that.
all the shenanigans, all the spice. Because you do a wonderful job of playing with what is and what was and the back and the forth of Preston and Madison and why she is the way she is. You definitely gave
Yeah.
more understanding there. How did you really balance that? Like, what was your thought going into making sure that Madison wasn't and Preston wasn't just romanticizing the past, but also living in the now?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. With Madison, I didn't want to let her off the hook too easy.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, because I believe in the good of people and because I don't want any of my characters to be irredeemable, there had to be something in her that could bloom. And
Yes.
so she was acknowledging what she did without trying to excuse it because she knew that there was no excuse. And I wanted that to anchor her with her character arc without it just being a bunch of words. I wanted the actions to follow up
Mhm.
because I feel like it's very easy for us to be like, yeah, I acknowledge I did that and I could say all the good things. But if
Mhm.
my actions aren't reflecting change behavior, then it's all bullshit at the end of the day.
Right.
One of the things I was very conscious about with Tender Offer is knowing that there would be overlap with the 7 month itch, which if you didn't read the 7 month itch, Madison actually dated the male main character in the 7 month itch who's on the brink of divorce when they were in college. So they
Mhm.
were only together for a few months. It was like one of her most stable relationships. She didn't want to be like Lauren Conrad in the hills when she gave up
Listen,
Paris for a
right.
boy. So that's where she met Preston. And so knowing that, like, I didn't really want to have any sort of chapter scenes
Mhm.
with Madison and Terrence out of respect for Terrence repairing his relationship with his wife, because that was the sore spot in the 7 month itch. And I
Yep.
didn't want to invoke that in Tender Offer. And then also, Madison and Preston, like, are finding their way back to each other.
Mhm.
So that's why when we first see Madison, she's kind of like, whoa, to me, it smells like piss in the dating pool because she's at the singles retreat, but you're
Mhm.
hearing the playback off the page of basically Terrence saying, sorry, but I love my wife and I'm gonna stick with her and we're gonna get back together. So I wanted that with care. That's another reason why Madison like isn't looking Terrence up. Like she went cold turkey. And with some of her backstory, when you learn a little bit about her, she wasn't really checking for him as often as it was assumed from
Nope.
somebody else's point of view. But when there was an opening for a stable relationship, like she took it. So you get that backstory. Um, and then with her and Preston just being careful of not giving away too much of
Mhm.
their backstory because that's really revealed
Important.
in the future flashbacks, but also how it plays when you carry sort of baggage that's informed by different experiences and what that looks like on the page. So,
No, you
yeah,
yeah, you did that because she was definitely not likable. She was like honestly homewrecker territory, which is
yeah,
why
yeah,
um you do a lot of redeeming for Madison, especially for a lot of your characters. I think Terrence also had some redeeming he had to do because
yeah.
it
He did.
wasn't as if Madison was in this on
That
her
part,
own.
that part.
He liked the attention as well. So
Mm-hmm.
accountability needs to show where accountability is as well. It takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
Is it so what does redemption look like for everyone in the page without giving too much away so folks know, especially earning forgiveness and learning how to forgive themselves, especially with Madison, because she's no one's hero, like you said. You made her to be unlikable. But I also think that Preston had to forgive himself because I think he was even without giving not giving anything away because I want you guys to pick this book up. He was going through other family things of his own life. And so how did you juggle the the humanizingness of the forgiving of self for both of
Mhm.
them and also for their friends to forgive them too because Madison's friends weren't nice either.
Well, so Tammy is the church girl. She's a pastor's wife, and they be hunching with her church hat
Yes.
on before
Yeah, with
service.
her church hat.
But Tammy was the one that was going to give it to her straight. And off the page, when Madison was crushing on a then married man, like she didn't physically cross lines, but the fact that she was crushing on one was a point of contention, and rightfully so, with her friends. So she definitely had accountability with that, but she also had grace. And one of the things that you see in Tender Offer is that Madison struggled probably the same length, if not more, that she did forgiving see now I'm named somebody, forgiving forgiving Preston than she did forgive herself. Because I feel like it's very hard for you, for us as humans, and maybe it's easy for people, but it's hard to sort of let go of guilt that you've carried for so long
Mhm.
when you feel that you deserve the things that are coming your way. Another thing with Madison is that she gets a taste of her own medicine in this book, where it was a
Mm,
little rough. It was rough. It
it
gets
was
rough for
rough.
her. And there's some doozies in there, back to back. But that's why I really wanted to anchor her with friendship, because sometimes we as individuals can't see, like we can't see beyond what we're in right now.
Mhm.
And so it's good to have people who love you, who want the best for you, who are sort of like your reinforcement when it's hard to hear the whisper or the internal, in your mind saying like, it's okay, you deserve to be loved and all of that. And so I feel like Madison was redeemable, and it's expressed through some of
Mhm.
her actions, her acknowledgement, her attempts to make amends, because
Yes.
Emma, Justice's best friend from the 7 months inch
Listen,
and miles
Emma's
apart.
me. She said,
Yeah,
if you don't get out of my face, I'm gonna
yeah,
whoop
and
your ass.
rightfully so, rightfully so. But even the fact that Madison was willing to attempt
Hmm.
to try and address the harm really shows that she had redeeming qualities in
Yes.
her, and the road to forgiveness is never one that's going to be super easy, because it looks different for different people. And so what does that look like, knowing that, like, in I would say in Tender Offer, it's not a spoiler, like she wasn't fully forgiven by Emma. Like it takes time to heal wounds,
Hmm.
but also it took her a while to sort of heal herself, and that was a journey of self, and then also a journey with her friends. And then on Preston's side, he is a billionaire, which we definitely address, and whether or
Yes, you
not there are ethical billionaires, because I'm going to throw a little bit of policy elements in it. But he basically comes from a family where, he's still mourning the loss of his mom. She died during his childbirth, and that sort of shapes how he is, because he has a very loving Black Sicilian grandmother,
hmm.
who's influenced him. But like, carrying a family legacy, that doesn't feel tailored to him, because it runs counter to some of his moral convictions and
Hmm.
some of his values. And that dynamic between him and his father, who stepped away but is like chairman of the board of the Donnelly brand, which they have like multiple luxury properties. And so learning how to navigate that, learning how to navigate the harm that was caused,
Hmm.
that split him and Madison up, and feeling, even to a certain degree, like he's deserving of love, because he's operated in this way where he could be very indifferent and
Yeah.
show like a certain side of himself to society, but at the core, like those are the intimate moments that not everybody gets. And so there's a trust there with Madison, even though it takes time to be reciprocated, where he wants to nurture that and regrow that with her. So they each had their own little different arcs as individuals, but they always had, because I feel like you don't do life alone, some sort of companion outside of their romantic partnering
Mhm.
that reinforced it's okay to let go and to be deserving of love. And so for Madison, that was her best friends, Tammy and Kojo, and with Preston, it was his Playboy brother,
Yeah,
who's in
he's
the mix
funny.
as well. Yeah.
I like him. I wouldn't mind a book with him in it. When you're writing redemption, was it easier to write a character who was seeking it or who was, offering it? Like you had it both, so which one
Yeah.
was easier, or were they both equally as difficult to write?
I I think that they could be both equally difficult depending on the scene or like the situation
Mhm.
they're put in. I feel like it's easier to write somebody who is seeking redemption because the fact that they're conscious that they want to display redeeming qualities and that they are apologetic to harm they cause speaks to like the foundation of who they are. If they were just an asshole where they didn't care if anybody like forgave them or not, then it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
you're an asshole. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I feel like somebody who's trying to fight for forgiveness to me is easier because you could put them in certain situations. So, like on Preston's side, he wants Madison to trust him, so he self-inserts himself
Mhm.
into various points of her life, like. Oh, you're going to look and do an analysis of my wardrobe, and I have this candlelit dinner for two in my closet, but it's not a date.
It's not a date.
Even,
Like, what are you talking
yeah,
about? We're just having dinner. You
yeah,
got to eat, right? You're hungry,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Or just like because of that sort of not the dinner but wanting to be forgiven is shaping how they show up in the world, like you're paying attention to the person who you want to forgive you and you're investing the time to see how you can basically win back their affections and win their forgiveness. And so it gives you more places to play with different scenes that you put them in, how they show up, how they're going to show care, how they're going to show that like you could break down your walls and I can also stretch out your walls since this is a spicy book. Um, so yeah, I would definitely say somebody who is seeking redemption is easier for me to write than somebody who has to say, okay, I'm going to forgive you or I'm not,
Mhm.
because you could literally just drag that out where they double dutch between should I forgive them or should
Yeah.
I not?
Whew. So there's 2 points you brought up. One was Preston. He is biracial. He comes from a Black Sicilian family, which I don't know if a lot of people know that Black people are everywhere.
Yeah,
First of all,
yeah.
so where did that part of the novel come from? Like, did it just come from a random rabbit hole that you were down, and you're like, I'm gonna make Preston this very hot Black Italian man? Um, that's just way too fine for his own good.
Yes, with a hint of English accent because he went to
Yes,
school out
listen.
here.
I was sitting
Um,
here like, where is he? And listen, love you, Dwayne, but where is he at? Just so I
there's
can look. Maybe
there's
one of my friends can have him. You know what I'm saying? So we can just look at him.
just look at him.
Just look at him.
Yeah, I don't know if he could be found, but I've gotten a couple DMs, and I'm like, listen, if I find him, I'll get him washed, and I'll pass him along to who needs them. But because I don't plot out my books.
Mhm,
Um, I'm trying to think. I think his heritage was a self insert. It was a hat tip
mhm,
to some of mine. So like both of my parents are Black American, but somewhere on my father's side of the family tree, my aunt has been working on somebody's grandma's grandma, maybe's grandma, I don't know, however far back it goes, was from Sicily.
mhm,
And so one of the things that I love is I love censoring Black romance across the diaspora and what that looks like.
mhm,
And so, as you said, there are Black people everywhere. And the Sicilian part was an ode to a portion of my family history
mhm,
way back yonder that I don't have ties to, but I have an interest in knowing.
Hmm.
I also love Italian and Sicilian food because there are some differences. And so I
Yes.
think that was why I tethered him there. And then also, um, being in Sicily helps to set us up for a standalone mafia rom-com, which there was a tiny, tiny Easter egg that I dropped in Tender Offer that if you were just reading through it, like you wouldn't know. But Preston said the name of his cousin, who will be the male main character in that book, who is Black Sicilian. So,
Come on, period. We
so,
love the
so
little Easter
part my
eggs.
family, and then also part set up for another story.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yes, I'm very excited now. Ooh. Also, I would be remiss because I do love Madison's niece, who is a gangster. Like she
Mhm.
said, run me my coins.
Yes.
I did research on your company
Yes.
and you're with my auntie because I walked in on y'all. Y'all thought I was going to look you up.
Yes.
So you did touch on ethical. Do ethical billionaires exist? And I was cackling
Thank you.
because as someone who's also, in the world of policy, social advocacy, so like, ethical billionaires, sure. So how did you bring that in and why was it important to you to essentially level the playing field
Mm,
throughout your book? Because I think I think by the nature of just being alive and being black and just being alive and being a person, honestly, like everything is political,
yeah.
and you brought it in a way that was very nuanced and not really in people's faces. It wasn't like talking about voting or anything. It was literally just saying, hey, let's talk about billionaires and how they are environmental, they can be of environmental harm if not approached correctly. So I definitely would love to touch on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I feel like since Ella, I've been dropping in policy related elements with my stories with more intention because Preston was well, he is a billion. Well,
Well, yeah.
he is a billionaire. Um, or he was in the 7 month itch, I knew that I wanted to spin the block on that because I personally don't feel there is no such thing to me as an ethical billionaire because the very fact that you exist proves that there are some inequities when it comes to how you're able to amass that
Mm-hmm.
much wealth and that much power. Now, you could not be an asshole, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that your very existence isn't harmful. And with romance, as a genre, we definitely romanticize billionaires
Mm-hmm.
because it would be nice to not worry
Not
about the
work.
cost of eggs and bread and not work and be able to like not have any sort of airline
Listen.
cancel our flights and lose our luggage. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but because I am myself, I wanted to contend with it. And again, without plotting, the climate discussions about climate and environmental racism and climate change come
Mm-hmm.
up in Tender Offer, which is not ironic because we're billionaires. Billionaires insert themselves into a lot. But on
Yes.
the policy front, it is not uncommon for a lot of billionaires to insert themselves into the realm of climate justice,
Yes.
where you do have a lot of billionaires who are advocating for things, even though they are part of the problem. Um, and so I wanted to look at that. Jewel was definitely sort of the mouthpiece. She represents folks here in New York State. I'm in the Buffalo area, and I focus with my 9 to 5 on policy advocacy. A lot of the stuff she was fighting for is a very subtle nod to legislation in New York State that has
Mm-hmm.
not been passed. That's on the table. And so I wanted somebody to hold Preston accountable because just because you have a good heart doesn't mean that harm isn't being caused. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
playing in the back. But I also wanted to read a story that if you have a billionaire in your presence, like, okay, come to my college and we're gonna go grocery shopping where you're buying my
That was
entire floor's
hilarious. He
groceries.
said,
Yeah.
"Oh no, and bring your checkbook, bring that
Bring this,
card.
yes. Yes,
Since you wanna do all of this and be underneath my
exactly.
auntie,
Exactly.
you gonna feed
Run,
everybody."
yeah, run your dollars to some mutual aid and some bail funds. How about that? And so I really liked their dynamic, even though it was very subtle in the background, where they started having one-to-ones and like
Mhm.
a relationship outside of Madison, and that Jewel is actively in the story or throughout the story, actively resisting
Mhm.
billionaires and also going to direct actions where, her family and even Preston are like, don't get arrested. And so now she has access to a billionaire where she could sort of pick his brain to help
Right.
sharpen her efforts. And he has somebody who's not going to do what everybody else does in his life, which is kiss his ass, but like tell it
Mhm.
like it is and tell him how much further he needs to go. So I really liked that. Um,
Me
I
too.
I
She
did
is
not,
funny.
yeah,
I can't wait to see where she ends up in 5 years from now. Like when she's
yeah,
finished law
yeah,
school, like she's already doing things. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that just gave me hope.
yeah. And
So,
what was ironic, because again, I didn't before I started writing Tinder Offer, I didn't say, okay, well, I'm gonna say that climate is this issue for
mhm.
this book. But as I was writing it, there's also ties to Louisiana, and we know that there's a lot of environmental injustice. Cancer Alley is a real thing that's referenced in the
I
book that
just went to the
disproportionately,
Whitney
yeah,
Plantation like 2 weeks ago when I was at Essence. I went out to the Whitney Plantation and rode through because to Cancer Alley because you have to go
yeah,
through Cancer Alley to get to the Whitney Plantation. And so
yeah,
definitely nodded
yeah.
there too.
And so some of the stuff that's happening with legislation when it comes to environmental racism throughout different parishes in Louisiana, I was able to hat tip to it towards the end of the book. I had no idea it was going to come up around the time I was finishing the book, but it just helps to amplify that yes, you're reading fiction,
Mhm.
but there are active systems at play that this book gives a nod to. And so I hope that it helps to give people a good story, give people some heat, but also to like look around their community and also expand what their definition of community is to start
Mhm.
getting some things top of mind that maybe they might not have cared about or knew was happening
Yeah.
in real life.
No, you definitely hit it. It's very topical, as everybody can see. All the thunderstorms and flooding. It's not by accident.
Yeah.
This is climate change, guys. This is what it looks
Yeah.
like. This is
Yeah.
exactly what it looks like. So I love that you blended that all together. I love that, and it wasn't. You gave the heat, you gave the spice, and you gave some knowledge, and we love that for the girls. What do you hope readers take away from the possibility of real change, second chances, everything that Tinder offer really has to, no pun intended, offer?
That sometimes the second time around can be better than the first when you are more mature,
Mm,
when you heal, and when you allow yourself the opportunity
mm,
to love and know that you're deserving of it. um, I know some people don't want to spin the block, and rightfully so, with some
yeah,
people
I
from the
know.
past, but as it says in the book, and it's the tagline, some love stories deserve a second chance. And also not just with the love of others, but the second chance to love yourself better than you did the first time around or the first however many years of your
Mhm.
life. Like you can restart today and get a happily ever after that you need for yourself and if you choose to partner with somebody.
I love that. I love that. So before we end and I let you go live your life, give us the skinny on Tinder offer and also anything exciting that you have coming up in terms of like whether it's travel or where everybody might find you soon on like some
Okay.
book tours or book festivals or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, so just tell the folks.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Tinder Offer comes out on July 29th, which is coming up.
Yes, it
So you
is.
can get your ebook. It'll be on Kindle Unlimited. You can get your paperbacks. And I will be on a mini book tour. On the 29th, I will be on at Burn Bright Bookshop in Rochester, New York. The 30th, I will be at Kiss and Tell in Collingswood, New Jersey with USA Today bestseller Ava Rani. She's a fellow romance author.
Yes.
The 31st, I will be with the Jaquel J,
Yeah.
who does the Delga, like all the books. I don't even have to list her
Listen,
catalog because it goes all the way,
the
all the way.
backlist is insane.
Yes, and I've been in the guts. But Ja and I will be on Instagram Live on the 31st at 7 p.m. These are all Eastern Standard
Mhm.
Times. And then August 2nd, I will be at the Hopeless Romantics in Toronto, Canada. Hey neighbors. The 9th, which is Bookstore Romance Day, I will be doing something at Pocket Books in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And then the 14th, I will be at Merit Badge Books, which is in the Western New York area in Hamburg, New York. As far as like conventions and things, I will be at the Toledo Romance Con, which is a single day event. Kennedy Ryan will be there and so many
Yes.
other folks in Toledo, Ohio. I believe that is Saturday, November 7th.
Mhm.
And I will also be at Steamulet, which is Halloween weekend in Anaheim. I might pop down to the Baltimore DMV area for something for my rugby romance, which is coming out December 18th. It's called One Night Stand. So we'll see, TBD.
Yes, yes. I want to make it to Anaheim so bad,
It's
but
nice out there.
I heard, but I got so much to do,
Mhm.
trying to save the world, I guess. That's what they tell me. Oh my goodness. So where can the folks find you?
You can find me at Tanvier Writes. Um, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads, and I'm on TikTok. Those are the three places where I'm active. And if you want signed copies of my books for some bookish goodies, you can go to thefrenchiepress.com and get your copies.
Well, we appreciate you for stopping by, sharing space and time with me.
Thank you.
Everybody, please pick up the tender offer. When I tell you, there's cake,
Increases.
metaphorically and otherwise in places that will not be named, as well as like just so much spice, so much love, so much forgiveness of self and joy. And I cannot speak highly enough of how much I enjoy the tender offer. So definitely pick it up wherever you get your books. And with that, you guys, that is the end of another episode. So make sure you keep healing, but keep it bookish, y'all. See y'all next time. Peace.